Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are live. I am Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire, and I want to give everyone a very warm welcome for joining me, whether you are able to be here for the live or if you are watching the replay later on. And just as a reminder, no matter where you're watching, this will appear on X/Twitter/Twix and Rumble and YouTube. So, uh, thank you for coming. Much, much appreciated. Speaking of welcoming and thanks, I would like to give a huge shout out to all of my new subscribers, particularly on YouTube. In the past couple of weeks, there's been just this surge, this huge uptick. And so many people who have come, they haven't just been watching the videos and leaving likes and all that, but they've been commenting, they've been conversing. Some of them have been interacting amongst themselves, and that is so incredibly encouraging to see. So I'm incredibly grateful for each of you who are doing that because, I mean, this is the internet. No one has any obligation to give anyone their intention at all. And for as far as pagans go, there's so many different people that you could be choosing to listen to. So I do feel that it is very complimentary that you do choose to turn on to me. And I just want to let you know I don't take that for granted. I am very, very thankful. And I am very, very happy that so many of you are such kind and people. So it is not gone unnoticed. But next, and on that vein, hello to Arizona Raven, who's saying, "Hey, lady, hello. Thank you for being here. Much appreciated. This is very much a new subscriber appreciation post." It does seem that once I started sitting down and talking to the camera to do the daily forecast, that's when more people started to tune in general. So I guess that's working. I guess the idea of starting the day with some spiritual thoughts and a little bit of a clue about what's on the horizon from astrological energies and what the tarot says and just a few other spiritual tidbits. I guess it's really resonating with people, which is what I hoped that it was. And Arizona Raven says this is exciting. It's exciting for me too. I do love live streams. I don't get to do them as often as what I would wish to, but I'm hoping all of that changes next year. But yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for taking the time out of the madness of the world and just sitting down, okay, thinking, what are the energies that are going around in the air? How can I actually work with them rather than against them? Because and people, they get down on us sometimes for taking astrology seriously, but I'm thinking it's no different than taking into account the physical weather. Astrology is just the energetic weather that we happen to have in our vicinity at any particular given time. I mean, if someone said, "I'm going to pour a concrete pad in a monsoon," I think pretty much everyone else would be saying, "Well, my guy, I guess you could do that, but I don't think that's going to be very successful for you." And it's the same principle when we take astrological energies into account for our day. We're seeing what activities we are most likely to see success in, and ones that we're probably not going to make much headway. We can say, I can take care of that another time when it might be more successful. And of course, we can't always do that, but where we can make adjustments, we have the availability to do so. And I think it's just helpful to have these things in mind. So as long as you guys keep liking that, I'm going to continue on doing that, and I hope it continues to be useful, as well as having those few suggestions about that's in the pagan practice section of the forecast. And of course, these aren't commands, and these aren't the only things you could possibly do, and not every idea is going to be appropriate for every person, not by a long stretch. But if it gets someone thinking about, okay, what would work for me? How can I make use of the energies for the today to do something good for me or for the people around me, to make some spiritual progress? Then it's serving the purpose, and that's really exciting for me to. I feel like we're building up something here. So next on the docket, before I ramble on too much, I will be on vacation next week, starting tomorrow, and I will be out of the office until May 13th. But not to worry, I already have the videos for when I'm gone. They're already scheduled. They will appear automatically. There will be absolutely no disruption to service. And as far as comments go, the ones that appear on YouTube, I will 100% be taking time out of my day to make sure that I say, hey, hear what you have to say, respond and interact with you guys, because that's really where people have been coming. They've been gathering. And so that's where I focus my efforts, wherever people are resonating with what I have to say. That's only common sense. I am not going to be checking in on Twitter, except for you, Georgia Liberty. She and I have a little something planned for you guys, which I will be mentioning a little bit later. But I'll be checking in to see if she and I need to do any plotting and scheming. But apart from that, I'm not going to be doing anything on Twitter. I'm probably not going to check on Rumble. And the reason why I'm not checking on Rumble next week is because the vast majority of the time, if I get a comment on Rumble, it's someone who's trying to sell their services to me to get me organic growth that totally isn't bots. And they're not a bot either. And they're definitely not a scam artist trying to separate me from my money. I mean, there's a reason why I don't give Rumble as much love when it comes to that, and it's just because I don't seem to be attracting the proper sort of attention there. So I'll probably not checking on Rumble. I'll mostly just be checking on my email once a day, just because I get my personal daily horoscope there, so I like to be aware of that. But yeah, I'm going to be having a good break from a lot of screen time, which I definitely get more screen time than what I really want. And I see you, Arizona Raven. She says, woohoo, have fun, enjoy your vacay. No worries on answering comments until you get home or never. Oh, I'll be answering. I actually enjoy it. I mean, that's the thing. I legitimately enjoy hearing what people have to say, and it's not just because so many of them are saying nice things. It's because so many people are putting thought into what they are saying, and they're sharing experiences that they're having, and we're having some back and forth, and that means a great deal. It means a great deal that people are actually mentally engaged. So I believe in supporting the people who support me, and rewarding them accordingly. So 1000%, you can't stop me. I will be looking for those comments. It's encouraging to me. It helps give me fuel to continue doing what I'm doing. But I'm not going to be completely lazy on vacation. As some of the old timers on this channel will know, my husband and I are still in the process of renovating our pre-Civil War farmhouse. It is, oh my God, it is just this never-ending thing. We start making progress and then something else comes up, and a lot of this stuff isn't necessarily we can do anything about, such as my husband's work will slow up, and so we can't spring into action. Or right now we're looking to get the bathroom floor taken care of, but we kind of need the weather to be dry. And we had such a long dry spell, and then out of nowhere, we've gotten all the rain that we should have gotten in the past 6 months, in the past couple of weeks. And it looks like next week on vacation week, we're going to be doing a lot of that again, lots and lots of rain. But eventually the floor will go down and we will get out of our shoebox that we're currently living in. But then a lot on the days that are rainy, we're still able to burn because we're still going through brush. There's so much overgrowth we still have to get through at the poor farm, and there's stuff that was left over from the previous owners that they were pack rats. It is taking so much time and effort and energy, and of course every time we go out there we can't necessarily burn because, as I said, it's been dry. Or if it's a windy day, we're not looking down to burn down the house, and we're not looking to to have that fire spread across the fields and into the surrounding town. Don't think that would make a good impression on my new neighbors. So we have plans in place no matter what is going to be going on. Let's see. And Arizona Raven, she says, pre-Civil War house, lovely. What area are you in? We are in central Missouri. We're actually in an area where one of the ley lines that crosses over Missouri, we're right in that range. So there's always a little bit of hyped up energy where we live, which is pretty nice because, we don't have things like Stonehenge or the Glastonbury tour, which I'm pretty sure is actually Avalon, or we're not at the Great Pyramid of Giza or any of the other major hot spots as far as energy goes. But we are in the train of an artery of energy on Earth, so that's pretty nice. And yeah, the house is pre-Civil War. It's essentially kind of like a Gothic folk Victorian. If that makes you any the wiser. I would show you a picture, but we still haven't gotten to the stage where we're painting, and I would prefer people to see the house a little bit more orderly than what it currently is at the moment. But also on the farm, the farm's just shy of 80 acres. There's an old cemetery that's on the property that's pretty active. Not everything there is necessarily friendly. So thankfully we have some plants, and we have a plan to keep some things that might necessarily be friendly a little bit more contained or a little bit more appeased. The poor old cemetery, it is terribly overgrown. We're going to be fixing that. And I think that'll calm down a lot of the energies there. So any lingering spirits, they can see at least something is, at least someone is making some effort and trying to make the area more pleasant. A little appeasement can go a long way. Oh, there's Zena Raven. She's at 32.7 north, 111 west with lots of things going on. Yeah, yeah. I do think we do need to spend a little bit more time looking at some of the ley lines and things going on in our in the United States, because I think sometimes we forget that there are a lot of energy hotspots where we are, and I think we need to start perhaps honing in our efforts, especially when we get to a stage where more people are establishing temples that we can come and visit, or just pagan meetups. We need to start making use of the resources that we have available. And then she asks, before and after pics, maybe a tour when you're comfy with it. Yes, I will do that. I want to have the after pic before I show you the before, because it's driving me crazy. It has taken so long. There's so many things that if I had the proper skill to do, I would have just gone ahead and done myself, but I don't have those skills, so I can't necessarily move forward with it. But once we get to things that I can do, because I can be very helpful when we're putting up the new drywall, I can do mudding, I can do sanding, I can do plenty of painting, I can definitely do organizing. Oh. When I do the great organization of not just the house, but the barns and the workshops and everything else, I will be invoking every god and goddess that is associated with the hearth and with farms and with home life in general. I was saying, I need you on my side. We are whipping this place into shape, and it is never going to be disordered again as long as I live. There's a little bit of frustration and rage built up there, as I'm sure you have detected. But any old how. Next topic I wanted to touch on. This relates to Georgia Liberty. She runs a channel on YouTube, Rumble, and she's also on X called Wiccan Conservative. She does a lot of analysis of current events and politics and just what's going on in general. And she's really bringing her pagan perspective to it. She tries to get past, all of the fluffy headlines, all of the labels, all of the things that are really set up to try to pit people up against each other. She tries to look at it from this these are the facts. This is the issue at hand. This is what's going on. And to get away from the advertising and just kind of get down to that real nitty gritty. And poor YouTube is, not poor YouTube. YouTube has been giving poor Georgia the business, and I don't like that. Now, I can't control what YouTube does any more than anyone else can, but if they are being mean to my girl, then I can at least have her on as a guest. We're not going to be discussing politics or current events on our upcoming live stream, which will be after I come back from vacation, May 15th. That'll be a Wednesday. We're going to go live at noon Eastern time. And of course, that'll be available for replay in case anyone who can't catch it then, because it is the middle of a day in the middle of a work week. So, we get that. But we are going to be talking about earth chakras. And I imagine in the course of that, we'll also be getting into some ideas about ley lines and various other nexus energy points that are around on earth. We're going to talk about where they are, what these chakras represent, what's, some symptoms about an underactive chakra and overactive chakras. Compare that to what's going on in these particular regions. And then we are also going to be discussing about ways to redress imbalances, solutions, or at least some ideas about looking at what's going on in the world from a more energetic and spiritual perspective, and getting it out of that Abrahamic context and worldview, because that's where a lot of the analysis really comes from. And that's one way of looking at the world, but it is certainly not the only way. And it definitely isn't the pagan way. And I think it poorly frames a lot of the issues going on. Whereas if we look about the energies that are natively present and how they are interacting and how that has impacted culture and the various controversies and what probably does need to happen in order to bring things back to a level of sanity, it is going to require that more pagan perspective. So she and I are going to talk all about that. I'm doing my preparation and notes. She's bringing up her preparation and notes. We're going to be having some confabs back and forth and just talk it all over. And I think we should have something pretty interesting for you on Wednesday. So I definitely hope you'll be able to join us, or at the very least, will tune in later, because I think it'll be a very different way of just seeing it all and seeing it, kind of seeing that big picture, how it fits together, and looking at it through, a more pagan language. So next up to that, let's talk about what's next for this channel, for my personal projects, all of that stuff. Because as you can see, I've always got something going on with this channel, and anyone who's followed me for any length of time, I've done a lot of series. Some series have come and go. The Wicca 303 classes, they will conclude at the end of August, and so that's going to leave an opening. I've adjusted the schedule for the Havamal to where we are actually going to finish up with these verses by the end of December. So after Wicca 303 concludes, you're going to be getting 2 verses a week. And then I think in December it'll be back to just once a week, but that's going to be winding down. We'll have the whole series. So anyone who's interested in going, back to front and looking at all of that, that will definitely be available on its own separate playlist. And then in Pagan Tales, I think I'll conclude that in December, and so that leaves 2025 wide open for new and exciting stuff. So if you have ideas or a wish list or anything else that you would like me to take in consideration as I'm going through my own creative process between now and say December, that's definitely the time to let me know about it, because I'll be making plans, and I want to have a general framework and an idea of what I want to accomplish in 2025. I don't know if I want to be as rigidly scheduled as what I have been in the past. Don't worry, the daily forecast isn't going anywhere. There's always going to be at least that one thing. But I want to have a little bit more flexibility and freedom. There might be a few more one-off videos. We'll just have to see. Like I said, I am in the brainstorming process. Another thing that's in the pipe work is that I've been thinking about whether or not it would be useful to create the Blackbird Grimoire in print. Yeah, I am talking about writing a book. Now, this is an idea that I've had very much in my head since, say, January-ish. But the thing that's really gotten me in the way of me organizing my thoughts, beyond the fact that I have all the rest of the preparations that I really need to do for the channel, for the series that we do have ongoing, and for fitting in lives where I can. It's a lot of work. A lot goes on behind the scenes. And that's just, putting it together and recording it and everything else, let alone the brainstorming and everything that goes into that. Lots of time, lots of energy, lots of effort, lots of screen time. But, oh gosh, where was I? Oh, yes. But I was thinking, I do find that there's a lot of value in how I like to structure a grimoire, to where it's, here are the basics. It's just the bare bones, the bare minimum. This is a way of going about your craft, to where you have it, it's there, and it's more so you're just using those ideas and deciding how to best make use of it as you go along. It's not something necessarily. These are things that I've had in my mind that I feel like are very solid, and I keep coming back to, and that I think might possibly be useful for someone who may not be inclined to write their own grimoire. Another thing that has gotten in the way of me going full steam ahead of this is because there are so many grimoires out there, and a lot of them are very good. One that I like in particular is let's see if I've got it right here, because I always have it around. It's a Grimoire for the Green Witch by Anne Moore. I have found that incredibly useful in my practice, and also with me kind of testing out my own ideas and everything else. So I have addressed myself to the question of, do I have anything particularly new or different or fresh really to offer? And what I've concluded is that perhaps, maybe, just maybe, I do. And that's only because I'm an American. And because Americans we come from all over the world, particularly the Western world. We are essentially the inheritors of the entire Western tradition of Western civilization. Culturally, religiously, spiritually, we have inherited that, all of that, because all of those ideas, all of those cultures, all of those customs really played a big role in the formation of our country, and then figuring out how those ideas can be played out and applied and refined in a way that makes sense for the environment that we actually live in. I think that maybe, just maybe, we do need something that is specifically from that perspective. I also think we need someone who's willing to focus on the idea of, we have all of these various threads from people who work with different pantheons, and without encouraging people to go outside of the pantheon that they're comfortable with, show how they can work together with others who perhaps call in other gods, and how this can be done in a cohesive way that makes sense, specifically around pagan holidays. You know, we just celebrated Beltane, of course. If someone is calling upon the Green Man and the May Queen, and pardon me, or if someone wants to call upon Freyr and Freya, or Brigid, or Kronos, or the goddess Flora out of the Roman pantheon, and Pan, or whoever you want to bring into it, you know, how does that disrupt the proceedings if different people are calling in different things? Is there a way we can weave together these threads to create kind of this American pagan tapestry, to where we still, have our private customs, we kind of do as we do, but when we want to gather together, that we have a framework upon which we can do that in a way that is workable. I mean, that's what I'm really looking for. I'm looking for workability. I'm looking for our common ground, things that can bring us together, and to where we can actually work together in an in-person communal way on our important occasions, and also to where we can also perhaps emphasize various aspects of philosophy that pagan paths do tend to have in common, working upon those common values, and also showing how, really these are the values that actually made, when America is going well, these are the ideas that actually make it successful. I do think we need to push back on the whole, well, this country was founded on Judeo-Christian values. Bullshit. I'm sorry to put it so bluntly, and I apologize if you have a kid listening. I should have mentioned about covering their ears for a moment. But I am getting really sick of that old tired refrain, because the very idea of a republic, you don't see that foundation for that, in any kind of Abrahamic text. That is an idea that came out of pagan Rome and certain pagan Germanic tribes. The idea of democratic process, that came straight from the pagan Greeks, and a lot of the ideas about individualism and having to take a lot of personal responsibility and leaving your mark on the world, that you see all over Europe, various pagan tribes that had those ideas in their heads, and to say that. And we know, because we've had to do all kinds of detangling, figuring out where certain customs and holidays came from. We've done that. Previous generations of pagans have done that. And we know that, pretty much, you look at something like, oh, yes, Christians brought this, you rip off the surface, you go back a couple centuries, like, oh, no, that was borrowed. It was borrowed. It was repurposed. So essentially the legacy, they have this, little Christian veneer, but underneath of it is our ideas and customs and things that are 100% pure pagan, including the foundation of this country itself. So I would like us, not so much to go in an adversarial way, to say what the hell is wrong with you people, but more so to say, the ideas that we cherish today as modern pagans, yeah, they had those roots before anybody ever heard of the God of Abraham in Europe. We are the legacy of what that represents, and we have not only a legitimate place in society, we have an absolutely necessary, indispensable place in society. And I have not ignored you, Georgia Liberty. We have the Wiccan Conservative in the chat. Thank you for joining us, ma'am. She says, meet all gods again, which was, ties in beautifully with what I was just talking about. And also, I think this could even be a pathway for us to reconcile some of the lost in translation difficulties between very eclectic pagans and pagans who have been in a very structured, very well defined, very, I have all these traditions to look back on kind of path, find some commonality, common ground, where no one's trying to say, and you must adopt what I do, but more so of, we can come together on these things that we do actually legitimately share. And there's such a need for that right now, for someone to talk about, we have things that are in common that are organic and are not forced at all. Wouldn't it be nice to work on that, instead of hyper fixating on endless details and endless differences? So I'm thinking about that, and that's essentially the approach I would take with Blackbird Grimoire. And as I've been going through outline after outline after outline, but you do not want to see the state of my computer files at the moment. You would not find that terribly impressive, I assure you. There are some I definitely have a few files that could probably be labeled worst version ever. They do exist. But what I've been going through is that it may be necessary for me to have a more extended project with this because I want the Blackbird Grimoire, if it comes to print, to be something that's essentially pocket size, like a journal size, that a person could just kind of carry with them. Something, I don't know if that would necessarily fit into a dude's back pocket, but a girl could absolutely have this carried around in her purse, available, just anytime she happens to need to reference it or want to reference it. Something that small and compact. So of course that would just very much have to be bare bone essentials. But what I would also like to do is have another volume that explains a lot more of the thought process and the reasons for why I've structured my own personal practice in a particular way, and why I think it might have some benefit and some use to other people who might find an idea or two that would be useful for them to incorporate into their own path. I do feel like it would be good to have that thought process written down, and then that started off all of these other ideas about magical cookbooks and talking about how to add magical notation to these things, because I'm a big believer in everyday small magics, and you just living life in a way to where your pagan path is so incorporated and so integrated with your day-to-day life that it isn't there isn't you aren't having to put on a different hat in order, and I'm going to go do this pagan thing and then here's the rest of my life that is unrelated. No, they're completely intertwined. That's the hope, that's the goal, and maybe I can contribute something to that conversation that will help people get a little bit closer to that. And then of course the generation of pagans after that, they might have find a way to do that even more. So fingers crossed. That's the goal. That's the hope. That's what I have going on in the back of my head. Am I a workaholic who's insane? Yes, I am. But that's why this channel exists. So thinking about that, other things about brainstorming for 2025. I do like going in with a plan, and I also want to think about a lot more about daily pagan life, incorporating these ideas of really looking for the lessons in our myths and stories, rather than treating it as this kind of academic exercise. Because one of the things I've wondered, and I haven't expressed this very well in the past, which has led to some contentious conversations, which could have been handled better on both sides, but yeah, definitely mine. But is I don't like the purely academic approach to paganism, because I don't think that's what our ancestors would have done. I mean, yes, we know that people who were in the priesthood or who practiced magic, they had a lot more training that they went to, as is fitting and proper. And of course, any witch who practices, she can tell you, you do go through a lot of training. The only difference is that nowadays it is entirely self-imposed for the most part. You decide just how hard of a taskmaster you really want to be for yourself. And a lot of us are far harsher on ourselves than any mentor could possibly be. But or the pagan who isn't a witch, the pagan who isn't training themselves up for priesthood, who's just wanting to live a pig, sometimes they might ask themselves the question of, okay, at what point do I graduate? At what point do we agree that I've got a grasp of the basic ideas and I have a sense of who these a particular set of gods are and all this, that when can I just be accepted as a member of the club and go on with living that pagan life? And that's a question I would like to use this channel to help address, to get beyond just the research, beyond the academic, something that is more grounded, more day-to-day life, more cultural, talking a lot more about pagan culture. I want to do a better job of shining a light on people who are artisans, who are artists, musicians, anyone who's kind of bringing a more cultural aspect of paganism, expressing it in artistic ways. I want to shine spotlights on. I know they're out there. I want to find out I want us to know their names. I want us to be aware of who they are, be aware of their work, and support them so far as we are able to, and so far as we are inclined to, and to start building those networks, and not just networking, but also looking at the people around us, because if you're in a more rural area, there are probably more pagans than what you think. That is very much what I have found in Missouri, and it makes sense, because if you're in a rural area, especially if it's an agricultural area or a ranching area, you're going to find people who are much more in tune with the land, and even the people who belong to Abrahamic religions, because they are so tied to the changing of the seasons and the reproductive cycles of the animals, and just what's going on with the fields, of just this whole cycle. They have to be in tune, so they're already sensitized to those energies. And I think sometimes their minds are a little bit more open to what we do and what we believe, just because a certain part of them is seeing, yeah, I do see the basis for that because I'm living that basis. It's not something that I have to ask myself whether or not this holds water, because that's literally my daily life. And I think that could also go a long way towards generally improving public perceptions of pagans and improving our reputation as a pagan religion, as a pagan people overall. When people are saying, "Okay, I see how this is grounded in reality," one of the reasons why people object, oh, it's all woo and floaty and this and that, is because they don't see how it's relating to the observable world. And this is something that Georgia Liberty is also she has emphasized many a time in conversations she's had with me. And it's just about, this is the reason why I have this idea. I can relate it to the world. I can apply it to the world. I can show you various aspects of the natural world in which this principle actually takes place. And that's a much different approach from people who I would say have a more new agey idea, or who they're less pagan and they're more they're more political, and so they're looking already at things through a much more distorted lens, and they're engaging in some of the bad behaviors associated with the people on their side, because again, it's not really about their paganism, it's about their politics, and sometimes people's politics are pretty nasty for not very much reason. you know and it just goes to show that if someone's sole desire is to gain power in the world, you might get it, at least for a period of time, but it does not make you a better person. How someone wields power, that is what really reveals character. And I do think there is some truth in the idea that power corrupts, but I think it corrupts people who already had defaults of character in a way that would make them predisposed to be tyrannical over other people, to want to control what they want to do, or to try to dismiss that they might have any legitimacy to their own perspective if they don't immediately adopt theirs. I think if you have that weakness within your mind, within your soul, and you get a little bit of power, that will absolutely show through. And that's one of the reasons why witches are constantly having to do shadow work, constantly having to work on ourselves. It's not, we're not self-absorbed narcissists. It's just saying we innately have power. It's not something that can be taken away from us. If we don't take care of our energy systems, it can be muted, certainly, but it's still there. It'll just manifest in really destructive ways. And if we don't work on our character, again, how we use our power, how we use all of our skills, that will also be equally corrosive, because shitty ideas give birth to really shitty behaviors. Again, apologies for the swearing. I'm trying to work on it, but really sometimes the word just fits. So do forgive me, my loves. But that's what I have going on for you guys. I hope to hear from you in the comments. And again, if you do have things along the lines I've discussed that have also been on your heart, or things that you would love to see me address in the coming year, I'm already planning ahead. And just it doesn't have to be today. Just if things do occur to you, let me know, because I want to make the people who watch this channel become a more active part of that conversation. Let's really start connecting, as because there's only so much we can do to connect on the online setting. But let's use this. Let's have these more public conversations, because it's not just pagans who have the ability to see this channel. It's people of any kind of persuasion, and if they see the caliber of our conversations going up and having greater substance, I think that's one of those things that it creates a better impression, and it also makes them more inclined to take us seriously and less inclined to just dismiss us and be generally disrespectful. Because I don't know about you, but I've about had it with the disrespect. But anyway, I'm going to drink a cup of tea and stop being so fractious. And I will let the rest of you get on with your day. Thank you again for tuning in. Have a wonderful time. I will talk to you guys directly once I get back from vacation. So love to all. Bye-bye. Ah.